This meeting is being held in conformance with the Sunshine Law. Notice of time, date, and place has been furnished to the Bergen Record and the Ridgewood News. Notice has also been posted on the Bulletin Board of the Administration Building. Will the clerk kindly take the roll?
Mayor Giordano.
I am here.
Mr. Bjork.
Here.
Ms. Saracola.
Here.
Mr. Ritchie.
Here.
Mr. Schatz.
Here.
Mr. Shalera.
Here.
Mrs. Sherman.
Here.
Everyone kindly rise for a pledge of allegiance. Let us have a moment of silence for all our Waldeck veterans and all veterans all across our country who has given the ultimate sacrifice so that we are here today to assemble and to keep us free. Clerk, kindly do the prayer.
Dear Lord, we start this meeting asking for your guidance and wisdom. May we find unity and fairness. The outcome should reflect our wishes to assist the borough in all their endeavors. Thank you. In his name, amen.
Amen. Good evening, everyone. And I'd like to welcome back our administrator, our clerk, and our attorney. Now it doesn't look like we have a game show here. We're all together. Under my report, just a couple of items. First of all, I attended the Chamber of Commerce 5K meeting. They're moving along. They're in their 14th year. Meetings are posted every month that they're having the meeting, and they so far have a lot of runners coming out. They hope that they'll break the record before COVID, and I think they will. Also, I was in contact with a representative from the Director of Constituent Services for Congressman Gottheimer's office. It seems that I was there twice. I put a complaint in, and I guess they needed a little bit more push about our famous post office. There's a lot of issues going on in the post office. The last time I spoke with them, they did clean the place up, but I've been told by our clerk that there's a light is out at the flagpole. So there is a complaint form that you could pick up from me. You take it, you give it back to me, I send it to them. It's an individual complaint form. No one knows who the person is that put the complaint in, and then they go to the post office and they discuss it with them. As I said, they said they cleaned the place up. I'm going to look into that, but also they did say that they're cutting down personnel, so that might be a reason why people's mails are getting lost, or you're not getting it, or it goes to a different house. But if you need any information on that, just let me know. Also, I spoke with the Ted Bell family, and I left a message the other day, and I left a message again today with Melissa to just tell her what the progress is going on with the park, so she knows what's going on. Also, on Friday that just passed, myself, Councilman Mike Ritchie, President Morrow, and Board of Ed member Mary Beth Nappy had a nice hour-and-a-half conversation here at Borough Hall. We met in my office and we discussed everything from personal to political to everything. And I just want to let you know we don't have to worry about an olive branch. Everybody's in good shape. Everyone has different opinions, and I think it was way overdue for having a meeting to just air out whatever. They told us some ideas of what's going on with their project there at the Board of Ed, and we told them about things that are going on here with the borough. And I think it was a good dialogue we had. Mike will probably talk a little bit more about it later on in his report. Today I was at the ECCR breakfast, and what that is it's the school, the Eastern Christian Children's Retreat. We have a home here at 148 Wyckoff Avenue. There's a lot of homes in different towns. When Governor Christie was the governor, he decided he did not want to have people with disabilities in apartment buildings. He wanted them into environments where there were homes and residential areas. And we're one of the towns that have one of their centers. And they had a breakfast today in which they honored the Developmental Disability Awareness Month. While I was there, I presented them with a proclamation, which I'll read. We'll give it to Kelly, and she'll post it downstairs. When you came in, I guess you saw an empty easel. This will go in there. It says, Borough Waldeck Proclamation, whereas disability is a natural part of human experience that does not diminish the right of people with developmental disabilities to live independently, to exert control and choice over their own lives, to fully participate in all aspects of society, and reach for the highest quality of life. And whereas individuals with disabilities constitute one of our nation's largest minority groups, which is simultaneously the most inclusive and diverse, and whereas individuals with developmental disabilities are at greater risk for abuse, neglect, exploitation, and the defilement of their legal and human rights. And whereas all residents with disabilities should have quality of opportunities, independent living, and economic self-sufficiency, including full access to education, housing, employment, and recreational activities. Whereas individuals with developmental disabilities with appropriate resources and support are able to make their own decisions, thus better adjusting to society. And whereas we encourage all residents to nurture a culture of diversity that offers inclusive and opportunities for all, and support individuals with developmental disabilities in living independent and productive lives. Now therefore be it proclaimed that I, Thomas A. Giordano, Mayor of the Borough of Waldeck, on behalf of the entire Borough Council and the community, do hereby proclaim March 2022 as Developmental Disability Awareness Month in Waldeck. We've already had it on the electronic signboard outside, and this will be put outside in the vestibule until the end of the month. But we also have to remember that we should not just make this month of March Developmental Disability Awareness Month, but every day we should seek to raise awareness about including people with developmental disabilities in all facets of our community life. We should create awareness of the difficulties that people with disabilities still face in fitting into the communities in which they live. We should also continue to do the best we can in creating a better life for people with disabilities. If everybody makes a difference by changing their attitudes toward others, this world will be a better place for all of us to live in. Shane Bryan once said, "I have a gift. Others may not see it as a disability, but I see it as a challenge. This challenge is a gift because I have to become stronger to get around it and smarter to figure out how to use it. Others should be so lucky. So let us all remember that we're all God's children and we all have a gift that makes us all special." That's all I have to report. Financial and Administrative Committee, Mr. Schlero.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to remind everyone that the public hearing on the budget is going to be held here April 12th at 7:30 p.m. as part of the meeting that evening. Details about the budget are on our website, and when you go there and look, you'll see it's going to be presented in various formats. You'll see something called state budget format, user-friendly budget format, budget brochure. It depends on what you're looking for and how much you really want to know. I'd suggest that you start with the budget brochure. It's become an annual publication for us for a number of years now that really provides the highlights of what's contained in the budget and what you can expect. Then if you're curious and you want to learn more, you can move on to some of the other documents that can be very helpful. Last week we had the March meeting of the Library Board of Directors. A couple of things to bring to your attention. The Library Board fell in line with the borough and the state requirements by lifting the mask mandate, which was in place until this past Monday. Also taking place in the library, you can continue to apply for passports. It is still by appointment only, as well as AARP is still offering assistance with tax preparation. I believe that is also by appointment only. So if you need any more information, check the library's website or give them a call when you can. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. Fire and Police Protection Committee, Ms. Sericola.
Thank you, Mayor. For the fire department, it's been a rather slow month. They've been doing some odds and ends training along with some spring cleaning in the firehouses. The police department has nothing major to report as well. They had another accident on Route 17 South where the driver struck a utility pole. Unfortunately, the driver was not injured. Additionally, a tree had partially come down on some wires on Wyckoff Ave near Birch Lane that you guys may have seen. DPW placed cones around the branches in the westbound lane, and Verizon was notified. This is because, as a safety precaution, the utilities are responsible for any wires in trees before the tree can be cleared. Eventually, the road was cleared. That's all. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Public Safety Committee, Mr. Schatz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have nothing to say at this time, but I'll talk about the Environmental Committee at the new buildings.
Okay. Recreation and Health Committee, Mr. Sherman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was through Borough Park today and noticed that the DPW cleaned up the leaves throughout the park. It looks fantastic, so a big, giant thank you goes out to the DPW. They did a wonderful job. It really looks great. There's daffodils growing over there by the Kerry's Garden, and they're ready to bloom. So I suggest within the next week you walk out to Borough Park, you'll get a treat and see all those pretty daffodils. Daisy Troop will be planting around the gazebo, I guess in the early month of May. So that will be nice. Ted Bell Park is under construction. I went by there today. I'm sure Greg will speak of that. The pool is being worked on and prepped for the opening day, which will be Memorial Day weekend. So that will be good. We are reminding our residents that we are looking for volunteers for litter cleanup on Earth Day celebration held April 23rd at Borough Park. So come on out and help us clean up our park areas. The VFW will be there assisting us, and I reached out to the 3 principals at the high school and middle school, asking them to spread the word among their staff and their sports teams. So hopefully they'll do that, and we'll get some big turnout of the students. One of my members of the beautification committee is going to reach out to St. Luke's Church and get presented to the senior population that's over there, and the confirmation candidates, because they'll be looking for volunteer hours. The last Board of Health meeting was canceled. They didn't have enough members who would be available to meet. The next meeting will be on May 19th. WAFA, Waldwick Access for All, we will be having our next meeting on April 4th. They made an accessibility guide for small businesses with tips on how to make businesses handicap accessible with just small little improvements, such as moving a plant, lowering the hooks on the door, moving displays so wheelchairs could get through. It's a really great brochure, and I believe that will be discussed at our next meeting in great length, and it'll be presented to the borough. It was presented at the last Chamber of Commerce meeting as well. There is on the website right now a link. It is under the tab on the website, residents, and then you go to latest news. It's information for the Borough of Waldwick Commemorative Tree Program. We're hoping that residents purchase trees. There's 7 different types of trees. People could purchase a tree, it'll be planted, and you could have a small plaque underneath it. We're presenting it more as a commemorative tree, so if you want to buy somebody a birthday present, an anniversary present, someone had a baby, or if someone died, or you just want to do a tree in your family's name, go on the website. It costs $600, and that's for the tree. It'll be planted and a plaque. So there's some nice choices of trees on here, and I would like to thank the member of the Beautification Committee, Dr. George Riskakis, who is credited with researching these trees. He's very active in a group that does native plants for New Jersey, and these are all native trees to our area. So they should do very well in our area. And then I'll have some things under new business.
Thank you. Public Works Committee, Mr. Ritchie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As the weather has gotten much nicer, which I think we're all thankful for, the DPW's had a chance to do a little bit more work with potholes. As Council President Sherman mentioned, they've gone around to the borough properties and have done some cleaning up. I don't think that they've gotten to everything yet, but they're hoping that as the weather continues, they can get to every single property. They did, at the time that I spoke to the superintendent, they were either actively putting the tennis nets up or were planning to do so, as well as the volleyball That's a follow-up on that. Some other ongoing work, well 6 tank has been, they've been filling that up, getting it ready to test so they can get well 6 back online. Turning the valves, as they say, checking to make sure that they can hold. And as the superintendent said, hopefully April 1st, they'll be able to pack up, hopefully, all of the winter gear and get ready for all of the summer stuff. As the mayor said, we met March 11th in the mayor's office with Mr. Marrow and Ms. Nappy from the school board. I mean, overall, it was a very cordial meeting. There was, I think that there was a lot of gratitude for us and our willingness to, forgive the inspection fees. We learned a little bit about the process of the bidding for the ongoing project, some of the hurdles, some of the excitement. But I think overall it was a nice meeting, a chance to get to know them on a personal level, a chance to understand kind of some of their projects, a chance for them to understand our project, and I think a nice, at least for me, kickoff to what will hopefully be a dialogue over the next year as I serve as the liaison to the school board. And so that's all I have for this evening, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Building and Grounds Committee, Mr. York.
Thank you. I'm sure everybody's heard we've acquired the rear lot now. I went to park over there, but realized I had to jump the fence if I parked there, so I was kidding with Kelly, maybe we can get a gate cut in there. I didn't want to jump it in my suit. I guess Matt's going to start looking into our electronic vehicles over there. We're working on an easement with the HCA Park, I understand. And Mayor, do you know if Maya has started her project over there yet? Did anything happen there yet?
Patrick sent her an email. You want to?
Thank you, Mary. Yeah, she hasn't started yet. She hopes late spring, early summer, but she will schedule with me to take a walk through there before.
Now I remember what I wanted
she
to talk
starts
to you
anything.
about. Yeah, I didn't know if the DPW had been through there to take any widowmakers down, which are branches that can fall before she started her work. That's what it was.
Yeah, that'll be part of it, but they haven't been in there yet. No.
Yeah.
And just since you brought it up, there is a hanging branch in Borough Park. It's cordoned off, so just make sure no one
Yeah.
walks in there.
Okay.
We should get that removed this week.
Okay. Terry touched on Ted Bell Park starting. I had kind of said it was a little bit of a delayed commencement. We lost about a week, but Patrick and I spoke about making sure the borough is on top of procuring the materials that we're responsible for. Sounds like we are. Just want to make sure when we get them that there's no damage, so we don't get a delay in case they arrive damaged. Our building department, as Mike said, has waived the permit fees for the Board of Ed projects, the 4 school projects. Looking to visit the waste treatment plant in April with Patrick. You're going to put that together, correct? I've heard the residents were really happy with getting the mailer again, by the way, Kelly or whoever was behind this. And we'll be discussing some various ordinances tonight, capital improvements, which affect the buildings and grounds. We're going to be doing the Pistol Range roof, the garage doors at the ambulance corps, the repairs at the White Pond Dam, the doors at the well houses, some ADA ramps, just to name a few. And I'll have some other stuff under unfinished business and new minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Administrator Patrick.
No report. Thank you, Mayor.
Our clerk, Kelly.
I have no report except Resolution 2022-137 is just a 50/50 raffle license for the village school for their parents' gala on May 14th, as well as a social affair permit for that same event, followed by 2022-139, the social affair permit for the Waldwick Community Alliance for their annual car show, which is giving me the authorization to execute all 3 of those permits.
Okay, Thank
That's
you.
all.
Grant Administrator Matthew.
No report, Mayor.
Thank you. Borough Attorney Craig.
Thank you, Mayor. No report.
Thank you. Sent resolutions and resolutions of the governing body.
Be it resolved that the following resolutions herewith listed by consent, having been considered by the governing body of the Borough of Waldwick, are hereby passed and approved. 2022-135, approval of consent. 2022-136, approval of minutes, regular meeting and closed session meeting of March 8th, 2022. Policy votes: A, Girl Scouts request to use the municipal pool on June 13th from 2 to 4 p.m. for their year-end Girl Scout pool party with lifeguards requested. B, Karen Livanos Centuro requests to install a Good Deeds Rock Garden at Veterans Park as described in her email dated March 7, 2022 to the mayor and council. C, the American Legion Post 57 and the VFW request to hold a Memorial Day parade and ceremony on Monday, May 30th from 9:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. as described in their letter dated March 15, 2022. D, the Waldwick Community Alliance requests to hold the annual car show event on Sunday, June 5th from 9:30 to 3 with a rain date of June 12th as described in the letter dated March 11, 2022. Stephen and Lauren Woods, 10 Darling Road, request permission to install a fence on property with an existing sanitary sewer easement on one side. F, the Waldwick United Methodist Church requests to hold a drive-through fish and chips dinner on March 28th from 5 to 7 p.m. and a waiver of the fire prevention and health certificate permit fees. G, Kate Drost requests to use Pavilion A on April 15th from 2 to 4 p.m. for a children's birthday party with alcoholic beverages being served. H, James and Mary Ellen O'Connell request to use Pavilion A and Pavilion B on May 14th from 12 p.m. to dusk for a retirement party with alcoholic beverages being served. I, Barbara Maniscalco requests to use Pavilion A on September 17th from 1 to 7 p.m. for the Waldwick High School 50th reunion classes of 1970, 71, and 72 with alcoholic beverages being served. 2022-137, approval of raffle license 2022-01 for the Village School. 2022-138, approval of social affair permit for the for the Village School. 2022-139, approval of a social affair permit for the Waldwick Community Alliance. 2022-140, accept resignation of part-time DPW clerk and violations clerk Nina Scardigno. 2022-141, authorize tax collector to offer a one-year payment plan for delinquent commercial customers and to extend waiver of interest until May 1st, 2022. And 2022-142 is the payment of vouchers.
Do I have a motion and a second? Motion by Mike, second by Don. Anyone on the question? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to speak on policy vote D, the Good Deeds Rock Garden. I had met with Ms. Karen Lovano Santoro over at Veterans Park, and she, along with the Chamber of Commerce, want to install a rock garden. It's near the cul-de-sac on White Pond Road. It's 14 feet by 6 feet wide. It's a meditation rock garden, and it should be, she's doing it in honor of different residents who do good deeds throughout our borough. And it's going to be a very nice addition to the area. Thank you.
And also in that garden, if you remember, we received a donation by Amy Weiner and Anthony Paradiso for a Trek bench. And I told them we would put it in somewhere in the tennis courts. So since the garden is coming up, I told Karen that we'll give it to her and it will be placed in that park for us. And I will let Amy and Anthony know that this is being done. Yes, Don?
Thank you, Mayor. First, I want to thank the American Legion and VFW for bringing the parade back for Memorial Day. I think it's wonderful now that we're able to do that we can continue to honor our veterans on Memorial Day. Also, congratulate the Community Alliance for once again having the car show. They did have that last year, and it was a great success. So a lot of work goes into that program, and I give them a lot of credit for continuing it, so I want to thank them for bringing that back. Want to address Resolution 141 because it was a late add-on to the agenda, and perhaps the administrator can elaborate more. But essentially, the state is guiding some of these deadlines because during the pandemic we weren't allowed to do shut-offs for utilities, charge delinquency rates, things like that. We're now able to do that. But what we're going to do is we're going to extend the deadline a little longer because the state announcement came out so late. So we're extending it to May 1st. And we would like to extend it to commercial properties as well because in the Borough of Waldwick, we treat our commercial properties and our businesses the same as we treat our residents. So that's what this resolution will do. Anything to add, Mr. Weary?
Anyone else? If not, clerk, take the roll.
Mr. Bjork?
Yes.
Ms. Saracola?
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mr. Schatz?
Yes.
Mr. Shalero?
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes.
We have one public hearing. Would the clerk kindly read ordinance number 2022-08 by title?
Ordinance number 2022-08, calendar year 22 ordinance to exceed the municipal budget cost of living allowance and to establish a cap bag pursuant to NJSA 48:4-45.14.
Anyone from the council would like to comment on this ordinance that was just read? Sir?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, and you know, and again, for those that are regular attendees, this is an annual exercise for us, but basically, we have a cap on how much we're allowed, a cap by state law, on how much we're allowed to add, but by appropriation and by tax increase. The cap bank allows us to cap additional assurances to exceed that cap under special circumstances. And one of the reasons we do it now separate from the budget is this has to be done prior to approval of the budget, which takes place in April.
Anyone else? Okay, I close the council's comments and open up to the public. Anybody from the public would like to comment on this ordinance that was just read? If not, I close the public's comments, and I ask for a motion and a second to pass this ordinance on second reading, and that the clerk be authorized to advertise it in local legal newspapers as required by law. Do I have a motion and a second? Motion by Greg, second by Paul. Clerk, take the roll.
Mr. Bjork?
Yes.
Ms. Saracola?
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mr. Schatz?
Yes.
Mr. Shalero?
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes.
Okay, we have 5 introduction of ordinances. The first one, would the clerk kindly read ordinance number 2022-09?
Ordinance number 2022-09, bond ordinance to authorize the making of various public improvements and the acquisition of new, additional, or replacement equipment and machinery, new communication and signal systems equipment, and a new automotive vehicle, including original apparatus and equipment in, by, and for the Borough of Waldeck in the County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, to appropriate the sum of $2,072,500 to pay the cost thereof, to appropriate federal and state grants, to make a down payment, to authorize the issuance of bonds to finance such appropriation, and to provide for the issuance of bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the issuance of such bonds.
A motion and a second is in order to move and pass this ordinance on first reading, and that it be advertised in local legal newspapers as required by law, setting a public hearing 2 weeks from tonight's meeting at 7:30 p.m. or soon thereafter as the matter may be reached. Do I have a motion and a second? Motion by Paul, second by Mike. On the question. Don?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'm smiling a little bit because it's just kind of an interesting process. For those of you that are regular attendees, you're going to say, okay, haven't we done this 10 times already? But this is just kind of the nature of the budgeting process in municipalities. So the first time you hear us talk about the capital budget, it's kind of in a work order, and the staff prepares the budget, submits it to the governing body, we review it, make decisions on what to fund. Then you see it introduced in the budget a couple of weeks ago that's going to have a public hearing in April, and now here we're talking about it again, so it might be a little confusing. So what this ordinance does is basically what we're saying is we're going to be pursuing bond anticipation notes to fund this year's capital projects. So the way this is laid out is we are looking for capital improvements in a certain amount of money, and if you have a copy of this in front of you, you could see the items that are being funded. And then we're going to be receiving grants and other offsets to reduce that amount. And then the bottom line is what we're going to be going out to receive debt for, or we're going to be issuing debt to fund those projects. So this particular ordinance, as opposed to the one we're going to be doing in April, is basically saying the way we're going to pay for these projects is through bond anticipation notes. So that is really the primary purpose of this ordinance, as well as what is going to be funded within those notes.
Anyone else? Clerk, take the roll.
Mr. Bjork?
Yes.
Ms. Saracola?
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mr. Schatz?
Yes.
Mr. Shalero?
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes.
Would the clerk kindly read ordinance number 2022-10?
Ordinance number 2022-10, bond ordinance to authorize the making of various public improvements and the acquisition of new, additional, or replacement equipment and machinery, and new information technology and telecommunications equipment in, by, and for the water utility of the Borough of Waldeck in the County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, to appropriate the sum of $376,475 to pay the cost thereof, to authorize the issuance of bonds to finance such appropriation, and to provide for the issuance of bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the issuance of such bonds.
A motion and a second is in order to move and pass the ordinance on first reading, and that it be advertised in local legal newspapers as required by law, setting a public hearing 2 weeks from tonight's meeting at 7:30 PM or soon thereafter as the matter may be reached. Do I have a motion and a second? Motion by Paul, second by Don. On the question, Don.
Thank you, Mayor. So as we also have talked about when we're preparing the budget, you know, we prepare a capital budget for the borough, an operating budget for the borough, a capital budget for water, and an operating budget for water. So this is the, I guess, kind of the counterpart to the capital budget for the borough for the water utility. And, you know, essentially, there's a number of items in here that we're funding this year. You know, typically the capital budget for the water utility, and we'll talk about this more at the public hearing for the budget, is for repair and replacement of water mains, fire hydrants, et cetera. There are some additional expenses in here. Still, we're treating it the same. This ordinance is calling for bond anticipation notes to fund those projects.
Anyone else? Clerk, take the roll.
Mr. Bjork?
Yes.
Ms. Sericola?
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mr. Schatz?
Yes.
Mr. Shalero?
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes.
Would the clerk kindly read ordinance number 2022-11?
Ordinance number 2022-11, an ordinance amending the Code of the Borough of Waldwick with the addition of Chapter 53B entitled Handbills and Circulars.
A motion and a second is in order to move and pass this ordinance on first reading, and that it be advertised in local legal newspapers as required by law, setting a public hearing 2 weeks from tonight's meeting at 7:30 PM or soon thereafter as the matter may be reached. Do I have a motion and a second? Motion by Terry, second by Mike. On the question. Greg.
Yeah, Mayor, you had mentioned some displeasure over the post office, and I've been hearing from some residents as well, with actually getting upset about the rubber bands from the post office. I guess they're taking the rubber bands off their pile of mail and dumping it on people's yards and stuff. I don't know if that would be covered by this particular ordinance. This is more circulars and bulletins, but maybe, I just had a note here in my notes about that. So if we're continuing to discuss things with the post office, maybe you could bring that up as well, please. Sure.
Anybody have anything with ordinance? Anyone else?
Well, I guess I understand that this is really in response to the question about the free weekly newspapers and how that's littering our community. And when we did some research, we found some potential language that we feel is legal to apply, because, you know, there were some questions about protecting the press's right to free speech, but we also want to protect the community and the environment. So this is an attempt to do that. Perhaps someone else could get into detail about what this does or doesn't do.
Well, before we talk that, Matt has a letter written up that I'm going to be signing, sending into the Suburban News. But Patrick just told me that we're going to hold off on it until we pass this. But the woman that was here last week, or 2 weeks ago, when we discussed this, she sent an email to us, and she was right on target with it. She was telling us that now we're banning paper plastic bags. The newspaper comes in a plastic bag. So now, not only could we go pass this ordinance, now we have to ask them, what are you going to do about the newspaper in a plastic bag? So that's one step that we're working on. But this step here is talking about how we're trying to let them realize that you're not, you know, not to do what you're doing in our community. Anyone else?
I was just concerned about how we're going to police this. Do we know exactly how it's going to go? I did read that Franklin Lakes has been successful, but nobody's been fined there. So I just was running through my mind, as I normally do when we try to put these ordinances, and say, all right, how are we going to actually take care of this? So you got resident A says, hey, there's a newspaper on my driveway. Okay, so what's going to happen? Are they going to call the police? And who's maintaining the record of who actually opted out? And it's going to be a he said, she said possibly.
Patrick, I think, and Kelly, both, they called Franklin Lakes, and this ordinance is an exact replica of theirs. So however they're doing it, am I correct that we're going to be doing the same?
Do you know who maintains the records then, like of opt-outs? Is it at the newspaper level, or is the town going to actually try to get copied on that as well? Or
The town would only get copied when there's enforcement action. So what would happen is this ordinance kind of separates mail into two categories. There's solicited and unsolicited. Solicited mail, they can continue to deliver however they choose to. So if you're someone who gets, let's say, the New York Times, and, the paper person throws it on your front lawn every day, that can continue. But when you have unsolicited mail, the ordinance lays out requirements for that unsolicited mail. It has to be delivered either in a box attached to the home or so close to that box. We give a radius from that box. It has to include printed on there how a person could unsubscribe from that unsolicited delivery. And if a resident chooses to unsubscribe, we'll give them information on how to do that. To have it hold up in court, preferably they would send a certified mail to when we'll give the address on our website. They'll do certified mail to whoever it is that's delivering that unsolicited mail. If they then continue to get unsolicited mail that doesn't meet the requirements of this ordinance, they would call us, we'd send an inspector out there, we'd take a picture of, let's say, the mail is thrown on their front lawn instead of on their front step where it's supposed to be, take a picture of it on their front lawn, we'll take the evidence that they have of that certified mail, and a summons will be issued, either signed by us or signed by the resident, who would be the complainant in that instance.
Okay.
Anyone
Sounds
else?
somewhat workable.
Yeah, I mean, it's, and I think part of this will be education, both to the papers and to our residents. So that's why we held up on the letter a little bit, because once this ordinance is adopted, we will notify, especially the Suburban News, but we'll find out who else is making deliveries in town and let them know what our new ordinance is.
Yeah, I mean, we may also want to give a warning before we just come out of the gate and wail on everybody for $500. If some
Yeah.
kid throws a newspaper somewhere
Yeah.
in his neighbor's yard, you can't get it out of the way or something, I could see all sorts of stuff happening,
Yeah.
but it sounds reasonable.
Anyone else?
So, Mr. Mayor, can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Solicited material, they could still toss the newspaper from their car and let it land wherever it may be. I thought I had read that still had to be delivered within so many feet of
But
a
if-
mailbox.
You mean if
or
you subscribe to it?
If you subscribe.
Yes, they have to throw it, and it has to be within, I think it's 3 feet.
3 feet, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So it's for both solicited. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Sorry if I confused that.
That's okay. Thank you.
You are. Clerk, please take the roll.
Mr. Bjork?
Yes.
Ms. Sericola?
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mr. Schatz?
Yes.
Mr. Shalera?
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes.
Clerk, now I read ordinance number 2022-12.
Ordinance number 2022-12, an ordinance amending ordinance number 2021-08, fixing the compensation, salaries, and wages of officials and employees of the Borough of Waldwick.
A motion and a second is in order to move and pass the ordinance on first reading and that it be advertised in local legal newspapers as required by law, setting a public hearing 2 weeks from tonight's meeting at 7:30 p.m. or soon thereafter as the matter may be reached. Clerk, please take the, motion and a second. Motion, second. Motion by Don, second by Mike. On the question, Don.
Thank you, Mayor. So within the borough, we have employees whose compensation is set a couple different ways. We have employees that fall under collective bargaining agreements, and each position within those collective bargaining units, their salary is dictated that way. The others are our non-union employees, and we have to set salaries for each of those positions. So basically, these salary ranges are set for all of the positions that don't fall within collective bargaining.
Anyone else? Yes.
Just had either a question or a clarification on our travel allowance and our cell phone allowance. I assume at the end of the year, we reconcile those accounts, and if you guys, does that mean if you spent more than that, you get reimbursed as well, or is it always just spent less and then?
No, those reimbursements, you get a flat fee, so.
Regardless of what you use?
Regardless of what you
Okay.
use.
Um,
And
it-
it's just cleaner that way.
Okay, yeah, I mean, there's different types of allowances, I just want to make sure I had that correct. As far as like the cell phone allowance, back in the day when, there was long distance calling expenses and stuff, what's the concept there that we're covering person's costs of cell phone?
Just the cell phone plan, the cost of the cell phone plan.
Is their cell phone plan affected by, like, the business use you're saying here at the municipality level versus just their normal plan anyway, or?
Yeah, I think generally the municipality would either provide a cell phone with a plan, or they
Okay.
would provide an allowance.
Gotcha, so
Yeah.
it's just easier to use this, the personal cell phone as opposed to issuing a municipal cell phone.
Yeah, I think it's less expensive for the municipality,
Right.
and it is, it's easier, more convenient for the employee.
Understood. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I have one thing, Mayor.
Go ahead.
On the fourth page of the ordinance, there's a change under part-time titles. The minimum rate here for head lifeguard will be increased from $11.40 to $12.75, and the minimum for senior lifeguard will be increased from $11.90 to $12.15.
Anyone else? Clerk, please take the roll.
Mr. Bjork?
Yes.
Ms. Serocola?
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mr. Schatz?
Yes.
Mr. Shalero?
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes.
Would the clerk kindly read ordinance number 2022-13?
Ordinance number 2022-13, capital ordinance of the Borough of Waldwick in the County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, appropriating the sum of $87,200, authorizing improvements to the pistol range roof, garage doors at the Waldwick Ambulance Building, procurement of a tire machine, mason dump body, fire hose and appliances, MSA multi-gas meter calibration unit, and AED units, appropriating therefore the sum of $87,200 to be funded through the Capital Improvement Fund.
A motion and a second is in order to move and pass this ordinance on first reading, and that it be advertised in local legal newspapers as required by law, setting a hearing 2 weeks from tonight's meeting at 7:30 p.m. or soon thereafter as the matter may be reached. Do I have a motion and a second? Motion by Katie, second by Greg. On the question. Mr. Sure.
Thank you, Mayor. So in the previous funding ordinances, we talked about we're going to be funding capital improvements through bond anticipation notes. These are also items that were improved in our capital budget. The difference is they're not being financed through bond anticipation notes. They're being funded through our capital improvement fund, which is part of our 2022 budget. So these are items that we're funding as capital, but we're not including them in the bond anticipation notes. They're basically being funded through current operations.
Anyone else? If not, clerk, please take the roll.
Mr. Bjork?
Yes.
Ms. Serocola?
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mr. Schatz?
Yes.
Mr. Shalero?
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes.
Okay. Unfinished business. Anybody from the council have any unfinished business? Terry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I spoke with Matthew before the meeting started, and he informed me that the slide for Borough Park has been delivered, and we're just waiting for the weather to break, to get a little warmer before we install that at the Emily Rice Playground. It was damaged by a tree, and we finally got the new slide in. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to talk, I attended they had the environmental meeting last week. I just wanted to point out a couple of things that are happening very, very quickly now. They're having a styrofoam collection on this Saturday from 9 to 1. It is going to be, I believe, 9 to 11 will end up being for Waldwick residents only, and then from 11 to 1 after that will be Bergen County residents, and obviously including Waldwick. We also set up plastic bag collection boxes at the library, the DPW recycling center, and also the firehouse number 2. So we're starting to collect that under the Trex program, which means that if we get enough bags collected, the weight we could get benches for free from them. We also are in the process of working on the anti-idling signage locations with the administrator, and I'm sure that's going to be started up fairly quickly. I just want to point out some of the environmental committee.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other unfinished business? Greg?
Our new business, you mean? Or
No,
we're still in unfinished?
right
I'm
now.
sorry.
Anyone else? Okay, new business. Greg?
Patrick, you had mentioned about this dog chase thing, the geese.
Yeah.
Do we have municipal property where that's an issue? It seems like it's mostly like the Board of Ed properties. I see the geese all hanging out on.
Municipal property, yeah, for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
Borough Park, Veterans Park, especially the
Yeah.
pool, yeah,
Okay.
it could be used. And that was a topic where I'd like to get a poll of the mayor and council to see if you're in support of at least
Right.
starting the groundwork for such a program. Eventually, it would be, how they had at least done it in Allendale was, it was a group created by ordinance, so it's something that we could do similar here in Waldwick, so you'd have, an opportunity to discuss that, but you know, if you're interested now, I'd like to start getting in line what the procedures were, what the ordinance would look like, what volunteers we have that are interested to help kickstart this.
We may want to coordinate with the Board of Ed then, if you guys just had that meeting, because driving down here tonight, you know, the girls' softball field, the whole entire outfield was covered
Covered
with
in
geese.
geese, yeah.
I'll reach out to the president.
Yeah, and I think first, you know, we would lay the groundwork for it, but it would, yeah, certainly be extended to the Board of Ed, which is how they do it now, and it's worked very successfully there.
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, just so the public's sitting out there saying, I don't know what they're talking about, because this was an internal memo. I'm not sure if the public saw anything about this. We're not releasing dogs to chase geese in public parks, okay?
Releasing people.
That could get ugly. It seems, though, a neighboring community has a very successful, well-organized, well-managed program where people could volunteer to participate. The dogs go through a testing program, a training program. I think the trainers, the dog owners probably do as well. But there is a whole process to go through. We're not just having people come in, you know, hordes and with their dogs to chase geese out of parks. I know some people feel like doing that, but that's not what this is.
Anyone else? Yes.
Yeah, I looked extensively at the Allendale website, and they really put the dogs through a nice training session. Each dog gets a numbered vest, so when they're working, you could identify the dog. The dog has to have certain skills, such as come back, you know, return, sit, stay, like freeze. You know, it can't just be my dog who doesn't listen to me. So it seemed like a really good program, and I'm very excited to get the geese out of Borough Park. Thank you.
Any other new business?
We want to take,
Oh,
is
I'm
everyone
sorry.
in favor
Is everybody
of
in
that?
favor of
So
this?
I think
Yes.
the next step would be, I would draft an ordinance, and I would start looking for at least a handful of volunteers who would like to start up this
Are
program.
we planning on chasing them back to Allendale or to Hohokus?
Hohokus.
Because we have to have
Send
dueling
'em-
chasing dogs here.
Send them
See,
south, keep
yeah.
pushing them south.
What I'll do is I'll reach out to Dr. Cheserico tomorrow and tell him what we're doing. I'll ask him if he has any questions. Maybe we could do this a joint effort.
Yeah, and even in Allendale, they had such a tremendous response from both dog owners and the public that they have agreed with some of the community developments there to chase geese on private property as well. So, yeah,
Okay,
it worked
good.
out really well.
Mr. Administrator, I assume they do train them not to catch the geese and just scare them, or do they eventually
Yeah,
catch some of
yeah,
the geese
they
too?
train the dogs to scare but not bite. No, I think when the dog
Remains
chases,
on your driveway next to
the geese fly away.
Well, I'm just saying, what happens if they catch one?
Yeah.
They're gonna have a
Let's
goose
take,
dinner.
let's take one step at a
Yeah,
time.
like the dog that catches the car. I don't know.
Any other new business?
I have
Yes.
one other, go ahead, no, please, no, me last.
No, please.
All right. As I relayed to the mayor and council in a memo last week, our court clerk has resigned, is moving to another municipality for a full-time position. So we have a vacancy there that we're looking to fill. Normally, I would ask your permission to advertise for the position we would interview. We've been, I guess, fortunate in that our current court administrator knows a retired court administrator from another town who is looking for work for the same hours and in the same range of pay that we would otherwise look to request. So I would ask at least if we could hold off on advertising, if I could get a resume from this candidate, share it with the mayor and council, and if we're comfortable going that route, we can move forward with that applicant.
I think it's a good idea, because Patrick was talking to me about it the other day, today really. This woman has 24 years' experience. So what's happening is she could just walk right in and take over the job. We don't have to train her. Christine doesn't have to do anything with her. Christine knows her. I think she worked with her, or whatever, how she knows her. So it's something that she could just start day one.
Was she looking to take on the DPW stuff as well, or just court only?
Court only. So that leaves us with a balance of work to be done in DPW, which I've talked to the superintendent about, and we have some options which we'll try to flush out this week and
Sounds like you
present
have.
to the mayor and council.
Patrick and I and Kelly met a little bit about that situation, and once they iron it out, we'll all know.
Yep.
Ken.
I think you were, Harry?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a few things under new business. The beautification meeting was held recently, and we discussed our spring projects. We also finalized our logo, and we'll be unveiling that shortly. We'll give it to Kelly to place around and put on the Earth Day flyer and on the website. This past weekend, Friday actually, we planted daylilies and irises at Borough Park. We expanded upon a planting we did in the autumn by the, near the gazebo, there's a green electric box. We planted under that and around that, so that will look very pretty. We planted the daylilies. We followed the vegetation growth that's right near there by the water, and we lined the entire area. We planted probably about 600 plants on Friday, so we had a very productive day. And when we were there, a couple was walking by, and they noticed the work that we had done and asked us if we were looking for more grasses. So I said, always. So they have grasses they want to donate to us. We just have to go and dig them up out of their property. But that's okay. We like to work. And they're also going to give us a couple of shrubs. So again, I want to thank my dedicated members of the Beautification Committee. I also have a hydrangea bush that's going to be donated to us, and we'll be planting that probably at Borough Park as well. So we have a lot of exciting things happening with our Beautification Committee. On that same note, I met with Patrick and the DPW Superintendent, Mr. Michael Latour, and we met at the Low Bridge about the possible installation and purchase of window boxes to hang off the bridge rail. If you could picture it in your mind, it's a huge bridge with a very large railing. We're looking to install 5 6-foot boxes on each side. They're 6 foot in length, and they're PVC, all weather. They could be kept out year round. We'll change the plants to keep them seasonal. In the winter, we'll have evergreens and sticks and, decorative balls. We'll put some vincas in there in the spring. We were given a $500 award from the Chamber of Commerce 5K committee to go towards the Beautification Committee. These boxes are $200 each, but they will last us forever. So the 10 boxes would be $2,000 minus the $500 credit from the chamber. It leads to $1,500. So I'm just looking at the council and asking if anyone objects or is in favor of us moving forward to purchase those boxes.
Don?
Just a couple questions and then a suggestion. I'm sure you guys did a nice job with the logo. What my experience in dealing with logos previous is sometimes it appears to be a separate organization from the main organization, and in this case is the borough. So I think what I'd suggest is if there's any way that your logo, certainly represents that it's a borough organization, or at least should be displayed with the borough logo whenever you use it, just to make sure people understand it's a borough effort and not, people don't look at it and say, well, who are these people? What are they doing? Why am I getting this kind of thing? So just in terms of the branding of the Beautification Committee and making sure that it's aligned with the borough.
Okay, thank you
So,
for your suggestion.
in regard to planters, I'm trying to digest what you're saying. One of the things that I just want to suggest is I think the Beautification Committee is doing nice work. I enjoy seeing all the work you do. It seems, though, every couple of months there's a new plan out there, and I just kind of would like to see a more comprehensive effort for the year. Instead of this month we're doing this, next month we're doing that. in our budget, we put money in for a community garden, and now you want money for this other project. So just something a little more comprehensive, town-wide, maybe for the year, instead of piecemeal. And I think that's what I'd be interested in knowing.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Mr. Terry, you might want to solicit a couple other organizations. I'm sure the Lions Club can probably donate something towards it if the municipality doesn't want to foot the bill of it all. But just think you know somebody you can ask. Well, I was thinking of your
Thank you.
significant other. But
Thank
we'll
you
bring
for
it
the
up at-
suggestion.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Yeah, question.
Yes.
So is the $2,000 for the planters, and then are we gonna get donations for the different flowers and like trees and stuff that you're gonna put inside of them, or is that gonna be another expense?
That's another expense.
Okay.
Anyone else? Kelly, would you take the roll on this?
Yeah, what are we,
What are we actually asking?
yeah.
It's really, are you
Yeah. You just call their names, they say yes or no.
Mr. Bjork?
May I ask exactly what I'm going to say yes to? I just want to make sure I understand.
What Terry just said.
Well, like, so the municipality might give 1,500 or 1,000 or just, I'm a little-
She's asking for 1,500, because she got $500 from the Chamber of Commerce, and then also from the 5K, I should say. And then also she is gonna ask other organizations to offset, I guess, the flower money, because that wasn't included.
Okay.
Right?
So this is for 10 planter boxes.
Yes.
Mr. Bjork?
Yes.
Ms. Saracola?
No.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mr. Schatz?
No.
Mr. Shalero?
I think I'd really rather see a comprehensive plan, how we're funding everything and everything we want funding for. So for now, I'm going to say no.
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes.
Mayor Giordano?
What I want to do, like I said, what Don said, could you come back to us next month with another plan? If you're going to get donations and then see. Because, I mean, we just started doing our budget, and now we're spending money. So if you could just come back, but see if somebody's going to donate. We could bring it to the meeting at the next meeting. Anyone else? Any other new business? Okay, if not, the public, anybody from the public would like to comment on anything? Oh, before, on the new business, if anybody goes near the 9/11 memorial, you might see a stake in the ground. It's not a burial site right now. It's going to be a tree being planted by Mark Adele. The tree is being, we talked about it at the last meeting, everybody said all right. The tree is a tree that he's going to be planting probably in May, but he's going to stake it out. He's going to put it where he feels it'll grow the best, away from the memorial or side of it or whatever. And then what he's going to do is going to mark it out. He'll take care of it like I told you that he would do. So if you see it there and if you feel it's not the right place you like it, just let us know, give Kelly a call. If not, it will be planted in May. And then the second one, the second phase will be here in front of the flagpole. It'll be a shorter flower that grows long, a tree that grows long. Anybody from the public? Yes, sir. Please come up, state your name and address for the record.
Where does he live? You know? 10 Dante.
Al Golden, Dante Place. This has to do with the newspapers. I've been getting one every morning now for probably 30 years. Never missed my driveway once. Every morning I look out the window, that newspaper's there. Once in a while, when someone goes on vacation, you might see 7 or 8, newspapers there, and it really kind of looks terrible. As far as the plastic, I'm hoping that they find something to take its place. I mean, because, the paper's out there in the snow, the rain, whatever. There's got to be something that they can do without them plastic bags. What might be possible, but the newspaper might not go for it. I might put up a second mailbox down by the road where they can put the paper in, in there for me, but that would mean quite a lot of people would have to do the same thing, and you're not going to make people buy mailboxes. So it's going to be a problem, I think, but Now, they've already cut out Saturday papers. The Herald, the Bergen Record does not come on a Saturday morning anymore, but you can get it on your computer. Now, I got a feeling that this, in the very short future, they're gonna go all computerized, the newspapers. And maybe this is gonna force them to do it sooner by banning the paper bags, you know. But I just hope something can come of this, and we've got no ideas about it, do we?
We're gonna try. We're gonna, you know, we're gonna look into everything.
Just to be clear, the single-use paper bag ban does not apply to newspapers. There is an exemption for newspapers.
So they might keep delivering in the plastic bags?
They're allowed under that plastic bag ban, yes.
Thank you, Mayor. I
That's
also-
good news for me.
I also want to clarify, we're not targeting the daily, because see, with the daily, you subscribe to it when it comes, you go out and you pick it up. We're talking about the free weekly
Yeah,
that
I
gets left
understand.
on sidewalks and curbs that people never pick up, that blow around
Yeah,
neighborhoods.
yes. But, you know, the plastic bags before were mentioned, and that kind of struck me for a minute. But that's very good news, sir. Thank you very much.
Oh, Al, just want to point out that, are you saying that they only do Saturdays for digital? Or, because I have the whole week on digital, but I get computer.
Well, you could do it digital if you want.
I did the whole thing right.
Yeah.
I just want to say, they
You
have
know,
it,
when you get older, you're not going to want to do digital.
I just get it on a bigger screen. And zoom
A
in.
television screen,
Zoom
yeah.
in.
A movie screen maybe, yeah, but I do think that's the future of it, though, because this is like a trial period for them Saturdays. And, yeah, I still can't get it on a computer. I'm not a computer person. But, so Saturdays, I miss the obituaries and the comics.
One and
And
the same?
whatever else is in that paper today, I really don't want to read about. We're in the same boat, I believe. But anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Ted Sands, 09 Kennedy Drive. Concerning the receptacles for the plastic bags, have they been put out yet? Okay, is there an anticipated date?
I believe within the next few weeks.
Okay, no, because I'm riding around with plastic in the back of my car, and I'm just, you know.
Bring it to Al's, bring it to Al's house.
He needs it.
Sorry, but I'm back at the water thing, the filters. Has anybody made an inquiry to have the company that caused the problem to reimburse the town for the cost of the filters? I'm asking because I asked a few weeks ago, and I'm just wondering if anybody's looked into it and just said, hey, why hand the people of this town a $2 million bill? You know, I'm just making an inquiry. Has anything happened?
Thank you, Mayor. Formally, no. I mean, this is an issue that's pervasive in our region and you know, may not even be tied to one, let's say, polluter in our town, in our area. It could be a lot of factors that are contributing to it. I think that you know, it's a question that I've asked to the DEP about tracing down the source of these contaminants, and I think that there will be a time when we pursue it further. Right now, our effort is behind installing treatment systems, especially considering, let's say we knew exactly who it was. You're talking about litigation that would take years, and you know, our focus right now is installing those treatment systems as quickly as we can. But I think that there is an interest now in at least investigating the idea that there's a polluter that could be pursued, and I think that there, you know, after we get the treatment system installed, will be an appropriate time for us to pursue that further.
Okay, I remember for many years, when the water report came out once a year, they always compared the cost of drinking the water versus bottled water. Okay? Micro cents through the town, or $1 a gallon, whatever. I am now bringing water and purchasing it because of this problem. Can I get reimbursed? Do I have to come to the town and say, town, hey, it's a problem? And that's disturbing to me. It's a lot of work, and yeah, it's more money. Hey, the Board of Ed just went 31 million, you're handing me 2 million? Hey, what's happening? You know, I don't have the tree that grows the money, okay? I don't have taxing ability, nothing like that. So, beyond that, now here's another one to please consider. Is there anything else in the water that's detrimental to us that we're going to find out in 5 years? Can somebody look into it now? So in 5 years, we're not going through this again? Please.
Yeah, I can answer that generally. To your first part about bottled water, the DEP hasn't said that the water in the borough of Waldwick or any municipality that's affected with PFAS is unsafe to drink. They have provided information on potential long-term health effects, especially for specific populations. And so, you know, each person, each resident in the borough is responsible for, you know, taking that into consideration, you know, considering their own health. So at this point, the borough of Waldwick, and I don't know any municipality, has either switched to an alternate water source or provided compensation for bottled water. To the second point, the DEP in the state of New Jersey, as well as federal agencies, the EPA, regulate compounds, contaminants in water. The DEP in New Jersey is very strict, one of the strictest states in the nation on tracking and monitoring and creating maximum contaminant limits for emerging compounds of concern. And so, yeah, they are right now testing out additional chemicals that may be of concern, you know, throughout the state. And those things are always evolving. Yeah, I mean, it's not the answer you might want to hear, but unfortunately, you know, that's the situation we're in. To be specific for the compound we're dealing with right now, PFAS, as PF becomes prohibited in a lot of manufacturing, manufacturers may look for other compounds that will then need to trace. And, you know, I think the state of New Jersey and our DEP does a good job of staying out ahead of that.
Why are we relying on the federal government and the state? Can we do it ourselves to know what's improper in our water? Why do we have to rely on the state, county, federal? Come on. I know in history, okay, excuse me, in history, the laws come, they change. This is good today, it's no good tomorrow. Oh, it's no good now, it's good tomorrow. I want us to know the difference between right and wrong, what's good, what's bad. That's what I would like. Why can't we stand on our own 2 feet and know what's good? Please.
May I answer it? I'll answer. It's easy, because the DEP, the state of New Jersey, has determined that you as a local municipality are completely preempted from determining any of that stuff. They control it, they regulate it, they're in charge. They tell you what to do, what to test for. You're completely preempted.
That stinks. Well, why can't we fight that? Why can we not stand and look at the state and say, you've had forever chemical in our water, not ask them to do something, but we have to take action on our own. That's what we can do. And not just stand there and say, yes, Governor, whoever, Christie, Murphy, oh, whoever's down there. No, we should be able to stand on our own 2 feet and inform the state, inform the federal and say to them, this is no good. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Anyone else? Sir, please.
My first council meeting, so. are we
What you have to
limited
do is just tell us your name
Are
and
we
your
limited to
address for the
business tonight, or can I introduce something new?
You could, anything.
Okay.
Just your name and address for our record.
Yep, Michael McHugh, 79 Bergen Ave. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor, council. My name's Michael McHugh, Bergen Ave. My wife Mary and I have raised 4 children in Waldwick. We've lived here for 32 years now. Our kids graduated all of Waldwick High School, 2011, 2013, 2015, 2020. What brings me here tonight is a safety concern that I have, traffic safety in particular. So, over the last several years on Bergen Ave in particular, there's been a tremendous increase in the number of cars coming down, particularly going from or going towards Route 17. I would say on an average day that we have probably 75% of the traffic on our block goes towards Route 17. And at certain hours of the day, rush hour in the morning, rush hour in the evening, I would say over 90% of the cars are going this way, right down towards Route 17. I live one house in from the corner of Nordham and Bergen, on Bergen, and there have been multiple accidents at that corner over the years, countless accidents over the 32 years. The most recent was about a month ago. A mom was driving her 3 girls home from the Superdome. I know all this because I went out and talked to them after soccer practice, and my neighbor actually witnessed it. And according to him and his words was, she never even tapped the brakes, went through the stop sign. Pickup truck was coming up Nordham, hit her rear quarter panel, did a 180, just missed the telephone pole, took out the stop sign, and landed on my neighbor's lawn. So luckily, no one was really seriously injured. But when I came home, I was out at the time. There was the ambulance in front of my house, multiple police cars, blah, blah, blah. And I say, oh, here we go again. So, you know, I went out and asked if anyone needed anything, and the mom just said, well, no, thank you, but she's glad to be alive. So, and unfortunately, this is not the first time a car landed on my neighbor's lawn, which I don't know how many people can say, hey, I've had multiple cars on my lawn. About 5 years ago, a Bergen Avenue resident himself, who knows the area, was involved in an accident. Someone ran the stop sign. He was coming up Nordham, and that car was fully on my neighbor's lawn and inches from my own driveway where my mother-in-law was in her car and my kids. And again, going towards Route 17, it's every time it seems it's people coming towards Route 17. There's also multiple other accidents. And the common theme, like I said, is generally an out-of-towner, because usually when it happens, I'll go out and talk to people, where you're from, what's going on, is everyone okay? And the common theme is that it's someone from out of town, and they just don't see the stop sign. I know some work was done about 10, 15 years ago where they made Center Street a through street, and that certainly helped. And at the time, that did reduce accidents, but now it's picked up again. You know, and on my neighbor's lawn on the corner, you know, my son cuts her lawn, does her snow plowing. I do some work over there. She's elderly. And I have to tell you that maybe my son, who's 19, says, you know, I keep an eye always on the cars coming down Bergen when he's standing there, just to make sure that nothing's going to come his way. You know, the lawnmower's on, you can't hear anything, right? And I'll say, you know, I don't know the exact number of accidents there have been there. I'd say there's not a tremendous amount of them. You know, the police may have probably keep records of this. But what I can tell you is the number of near misses is quite high. And what do I mean by near miss is the horn. When I hear the horn, I know that someone blew the stop sign. In fact, today at lunchtime. It's not just a little beep, beep, like, oh, this is the lean on the horn for 5 seconds. Oh my God, if I was 1 second earlier, I would have been T-boned. That's the horn that I hear. I hear it almost every day. So, you know, we've been lucky so far, in my opinion, that no one's been seriously injured. You know, we bought our house in 1990, and at the time, you know, things have obviously changed over 32 years, but at the time, Bergen Avenue was not that busy. For my kids, when we were younger, we would play in the street with our supervision, but we'd play ball, football, whatever, baseball in the street. I couldn't even think of doing that now. You know, there's neighbors on my street that have young kids. They can't even do it, right? And in fact, if I had kids now, I wouldn't even let them play in the front of my house. Never mind playing in the street. So, you know, I didn't buy into that living on a busy street, right, at this level. We bought into living on a street that's 1 block from traffic and schools. So understanding that, yes, there's gonna be traffic in the morning, 8 a.m., 3 p.m., there's going to be cars, right? That's expected. But what's combined now is, or compounds this, is the morning rush hour. Everyone's going down, there's kids, you know, going to school. Evening rush hour, the kids are gone by that time, but once again, and the cars go all night too, right till 11 p.m. I can almost tell when certain businesses may get out. If it's on Hopper Avenue or whatever, 10 after 10, here comes 15 cars. 11 o'clock, here comes 10 cars. And I walked here tonight to the meeting, and I walked from Nordham down to that last, I forget the name of the street, the last block before Franklin Turnpike, and made a left. I said, let me just count this. In my long legs, it took me about 4 minutes to walk there. 10 cars came there. So then as I cut across to Lincoln, Walter Ave, and the next block, so let me stop here for a second and just see how many cars come. And 1 on the 3 blocks combined. Right? So I don't know if it's a Bergen Avenue specific thing or all the blocks are affected. My neighbor did tell me, he said, you know, you would just stand in the Superdome parking lot and type in Waze Bergen Avenue, Route 17 South. It takes you down Bergen Avenue. So that might be an issue. That might be part of it. You know, I don't think Bergen Ave and our grid of blocks is really built for this amount of traffic, right? And it can go reverse too. So just, I think it was a month ago, you were mentioning in your report, there was an accident on Route 17 South, right? The car went over the guardrail, whatever. And this happens several times a year also. Now the cars are coming up, right? They're gonna get away from traffic, get around it. Now we got all these cars wandering around our grid of blocks here, trying to avoid the traffic. Right? So we get it both ways. So, you know, too long here. You know, my son, you know, teenage son, his friend came over last year, and the boys are not like don't really notice things, right? But he gets out of his car, he's like, "Oh, you live in a busy block." You know? Like, I know. Thanks. Even my daughter commented recently. She turned up from Ridge. She said, I had to pull over 3 times to go from Ridge to Nordham because of all the cars coming in. Right? And unfortunately, I'm not one to, you know, exaggerate things, or I'm not a complainer. Right? It's my first time here. Right? I don't like to complain. So, but I'm here to work with you guys, and if there's something we can look at, I'm here to help. Right? I'm not just say, hey, fix this for me. I know in this particular case it's going to be probably somewhat complicated. You know, so what do we do? And I know probably about 15, 20 years ago we had a conversation about closing the access to Route 17 for these blocks, right? I'm not sure what ended up happening then, but I know at the time it was like a safety concern, right? Of police and fire vehicles. So I say to that, and I'm not solutioning anything right now, but if I lived on Bergen Avenue on the other side of Route 17, that's blocked off. None of those blocks come through. What's different? You know, fire trucks have a reverse gear, so the police don't. Just saying. So, you know, when I first moved here, you know, I worked down in North Bergen, so hey, this is great. I went down Bergen Avenue and made a right on Route 17. I did that for about a year and a half. After how many nails or things I got in my tires, and cars come flying by, and it's not the safest thing to pull out onto 17 from those blocks, right? So to me, that's another safety issue. Cars are coming down, and other towns don't have multiple residential streets dumping into Route 17. You know, I just don't see it. So cars are coming flying down, all of a sudden a car comes out, what the hell's going on here? So, I mean, I would like to revisit and I know there's going to be a lot of work to be done, and maybe canvassing the neighborhood, and I don't know the process, but I'm coming here to help ask you guys, what could the process be? What can I do to help? You know, potentially closing Route 17, and then contacting Waze or whatever GPS manufacturers there are to not direct them down our residential streets, right? There's a lot of cars that come out of Hopper Avenue, and they're coming down to Bergen Avenue, but East Allendale Ave is right, it's closer there, right? You could just go down there. I don't think, there could be signage that could be put, there's, everyone has GPS these days, but if you get near the Parkway, you always see the Parkway sign, right? Okay, I'm near the Parkway. Maybe we could put up some signs for Route 17, arrow this way or that. Just something simple like that. Just throwing out some suggestions. I'm not trying to solution the whole thing. So in conclusion, I want to work with the appropriate parties in town, county, even the state Route 17. I'm not sure who owns what, to help with this issue. But I think it's really, we're a residential community with great school there, a Blue Ribbon School, lots of kids and families out walking, and I'm really concerned about multiple neighbors during the pandemic have dogs. There's everyone walking a dog now, going around that corner, and I'm just afraid of, I don't even want to say what could happen, right? I feel it's incumbent upon us, me, and us as a town and a council, to keep our neighborhood as safe as possible. The life we save could be mine, could be yours, could be anyone's. Thank you for listening. I'm not one to come here and just dump on you guys. I'm here to help. I recently retired, so I have some time.
What we'll do is we're gonna have our administrator reach out to our police chief, our lieutenants, and also our traffic officer, and just, as you just said, and they'll try to come up with something, I can't guarantee, I know we're not gonna be able to shut the streets. I've went through this before.
I know.
I went down to Trenton, and they will not shut those streets. They
Is
will
that a
not shut
state issue? Is that a state?
They will not do it. If to shut down a street, this was back then, we could find out again, but to shut down a street, you cannot back a fire truck off of the road. You can't back it up the street. They have to be able to make a turn. To make a turn in any one of those streets that you're talking about, you have to at least buy 3 houses on each side of the block out, and then so that they could have a radius to turn. This is what we were told. This was told to us by when Gary Kratz, the previous
I remember.
administrator, was here. And it's always been an issue. Years ago, the other side of town, they got it done. But what I remember is when this side of town wanted to have talk about what you're talking about, closing the streets, I think everybody in the area came out and voted against it, and it was stopped. And
Yeah,
now,
I mean,
it came up once before, and it's coming up again. But he's new now, so we have a different administrator. But he will speak to our police chief, and we will try to see what we could do, put some signage, whatever we have to do to make it safe.
Yeah,
I mean, I used to live on Bergen Avenue. I lived a house away from Route 17. And when you mentioned about cars coming onto your lawn, I used to have the people that were out of the cars sitting on my lawn. Because at that time, they didn't have cell phones. And they'd be calling their families to get them out of the situation. It's always been a problem. It's, we could try again.
yeah. I mean, I just want to work with you guys.
Absolutely.
I at least want to bring up the subject again.
Right. No, I appreciate it.
And definitely want to try it.
Absolutely.
I don't want to say we can't close the road.
No, well, we're going to look into it again.
This is America, and anything's possible.
Absolutely. We'll look into it again.
So thank you, I appreciate it.
We have your number, we have your name, we'll look up your number, and we'll tell you how we progress with this. But the first thing we're gonna do is, we'll reach out with the police to see if they have a game plan, and then what we'll do is we'll go to the state.
Yeah, and I appreciate the police, and I always see the same police officer who comes to Officer Riverdale.
Right.
He graduated my daughter, so.
Oh, good.
How you doing, how you doing? What's going on? Oh, well,
Good.
so, anyway, I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor?
Anyone else? Yes?
Mark Ramundo, 83 Highwood Ave. I got a question for, I guess, Craig and Patrick regarding the Bergen Ave issue. Just knowing how it works, that's the first through street that goes directly to Route 17 as a through street. Is there any way to contact Waze and Google? I know that some towns have done that, where they say that that's not considered the fastest route. And you can make it so that they have to go down to East Prospect. Some towns do it. I know that certain towns are able to work with Waze and Google Maps to do that. But if a person puts in fastest route, that might be 3 seconds faster than going down to East Prospect, and it'll divert you that way. And I know it's bad because I've almost gotten hit 3 times on that, and people just fly through that street, which is weird because they're only going from Center Street to Northam. You're only going like 4 houses worth of. So it's something that does happen on a regular basis. In fact, I think one of the members of the fire department got hit there. Joe Goog flipped over his Suburban. That's how fast people are going. So it is a common problem, and I've seen people that run that almost get hit, people that walk their dogs almost get hit. Just something that would be nice if, it's something as simple as contacting them to say that that's a street that's either off limits.
I was actually just going to say there's a way to do it too, so it's one of the options.
Yep. So I think if you create an ordinance that you say you can't make a left-hand turn when going southbound on Franklin Turnpike or going northbound. I know, I think Ridgewood has certain streets where you can't make turns off the main street. It stinks because luckily, unfortunately, you usually want, that's the way you want to go, but it forces you to go the right way.
Have you reach out with the police? They have all these ideas?
Yep.
We'll figure out what we can do.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? If not, do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion by Mike, second by Don. All those in favor? All those opposed? Good night, everyone.